Justin here from Kombative Edge Martial Arts, and as you know, I'm coming from my Floral Park school. And today, right, we're going to continue talking about the martial art business and what we're doing. And we're talking about how to go from the shirt off your back to right now. I have 2 schools, soon to open up my 3rd one, and we're going to cover the process of doing that. Now, so where are we? We're in our story. We are where? We're at the park. In the last video, we were talking about what? We're talking about how you're going to have a lot of people, especially in the beginning, when you're doing something different, something new, something outlandish, something out of the ordinary. There are going to be more people trying to knock you off your path to success than cheering you on. And unfortunately, that is always the case. Always the case. It'll always be the case. So you got to get used to it. Like I said before, I only had one person in my corner at the time. Just one person. And you know, you might be the lucky few that have more than one person helping you out. So it's important to make sure that you have the internal strength and the fortitude to keep charging away. Now, we're going to fast forward a little bit, okay? So we're at the park. I'm at the park. Winter's rolling in, and the snow is on the way. And now I have to what? I got to find a place. So I started making some calls and whatnot, and I found a church that I could work out of. And I remember I was talking about a guy named Richie. He was in charge of St. Hedwig's Church, the parish hall. And what was funny was Richie was actually part of, we actually used the church a while back when I was under my old instructor for seminars. So Richie remembered me, and he goes, I know you, you're the guy from the martial arts from a while back. He remembered my face. And I said, yes. So we started talking, the whole 9 yards, and we worked out a deal, and he was able to let me start teaching martial arts in the parish hall. And I got my first victory under my belt, which was what? I got a place, okay? And we're gonna be talking about how to eventually go from the church to your first school, because this is where a lot of stuff happens, okay? But I remember I had to, the church, the parish hall was big, right? So you're looking at, 4 to 8 flights of stairs, depending on what floor you were working on. So anytime we were in the basement, it was always a good time. Why? Because the mats that we had were stored in the basement. So it was easy just to pull the mats out, lay them down in the basement floor, which was the gym, and we could just train. But for the rest of the week, we were moving up and down the flights of stairs. So looking back, I can tell you that I learned a lot of my business in that church. And I remember being at the church, I was the new guy. And what does that mean? That means there was a Polish school there, there was a senior center there, and there was a Filipino cultural dance group there. And they were all trying to kick the new guy out, me. And I kept on going to Richie, who would talk to Father Peter, and and they basically helped me keep these groups at bay, because I was so-called stepping on their toes, which I really wasn't. I just wanted to teach martial arts, but I guess competing for space time, so forth and so on. And I never took any of their time. I never took any of their space time. I was always out when their time was coming in, and I would do what I would have to do. So this whole thing really taught me how to negotiate, how to work out, negotiation, a truce, right, between people and between groups of people. Because you know what, when you have different groups of people coming together, you have to find a common denominator with all of them. You got to make your peace with all of them, because If you don't, it's going to be hard. And you know what? Starting a business on top of all that is very hard. So I was actually in a very tricky, rocky situation where, you know, I didn't know what to do. So I'm in the church. You know, the days are, days have started. We're rolling through the days or whatnot. And the first thing I ended up doing, now that I was at a church, I ended up creating a website. Now, I didn't create a website at the park because we were at the park. I didn't at that time I didn't feel that there was a need, because I didn't have a place. Now that I had a place to teach out of, I created a website. And I put the whole Kombative Edge thing together. And what was funny is my partner at the time, he was the one that came up with the name Kombative Edge. I didn't even come up with the name Kombative Edge. He came up with the name Kombative Edge. And so I was like, all right. I just wanted to start teaching. So at the time, I didn't care about the name. And Kombative Edge, that's how the name Kombative Edge came to be. He's like, what about Kombative Edge? I was like, with a K. I was like, all right, cool. Let's do it. So, so I started, I put a website together. And, I started, I made my own website. And at the time, I was using Wix.com. My website was terrible, absolutely terrible. And I had no money. So I could afford the service and I could make it myself. So that's what I did. So I put the website up and the website was moving and class were in. So that is a source, right? Because we were talking about what? We were talking about power base. Right? We're talking about the power base, right? Talk to your friends, talk to your people, talk to your, people from work or whatnot. Tell them what you're doing. You got a space, you got a location, come on down. So now you have your power base. Now the website can start to branch out, right? Start to branch out, start to get things going. People can start to come and visit your website. And what was funny was I didn't know any of this at that time, in the sense of like how to really create YouTube and you know what? I don't even know. I think YouTube was around. You know what? I was so out of the game when it came to this that I didn't even think of using YouTube, to be honest. Oh no, I did use YouTube a little bit, but not to the full extent of what it could have been, because I wasn't that computer savvy. COVID had to happen, and we'll talk about that later on. COVID had to happen for me to get very computer savvy. And the funny thing is, I'm still not as savvy as the kids of today. So don't think I'm some amazing guy. I'm still not. I'm still behind the 8 ball when it comes to that. I'm still learning and growing every day, but I'm better than I was. Okay? So I was reading a lot of books at the time, and a lot of business books, and a lot of them said when you're starting out, word of mouth. So I would be out there, right? So you'd get out there, word of mouth, talk to people, get referrals, talk to your kids that you have, get them to bring in some friends. And that honestly is a lot of the game at this point, is getting referrals, getting people to bring in friends. And because if they like you, again, this is the relationship part. This is the, the integrity, right? This is the, developing that relationship. If they like you, they will bring in people to you, right? We discussed this. So this is all happening all at the same time. So it's very, very important to understand how you have to have that, you have to have that character that you want in order to bring in more people. Okay, so you have your website, right? You have your website. You have I was doing a lot at the time. I was doing a lot of what? Talking, communicating, getting out there, and I would get like rack cards. You can print out like 500 for whatever, how many bucks at Vistaprint. So I was handing out rack cards and leaving them up and talking to people, and I was just out there, basically being like a door-to-door salesman. right? I was just walking the street, talking to people, dropping stuff off every day. And I did that. Meanwhile, I was studying sales, and at this time, my sales skills was decent. Not great, decent. Because I had a lot of experience from working with my old instructor for 10 years, right? So I knew how to sell. What I didn't know was how to start up, right? And I remember my old instructor telling me that, a long time ago, Justin, you're doing well because I'm established. You're not going to do as well if you're not established. And I know he was saying that to discourage me because he didn't want me to go, but there was a lot of truth to it as well. So these are things that, you got to keep in mind. So, you got to get out there and you got to, beat the pavement, and you got to hand out cards and talk to people. Now, nowadays, YouTube is so popular that, these old ways, these old methods, people might be like, no, it's outdated, but it's really not. Especially if you want to bring people in. Because what's great about YouTube is, you can do something on YouTube or whatnot, and you don't have to pay rent. Right? You don't have a space to pay rent. But if you're providing a service of some kind, YouTube might be a great way to start it out or whatnot. But if you're doing a service where you're trying to teach somebody something physically, like martial arts, boxing, or whatever it may be, you need them to come in. You need them to come into a place where they can sit down, they can talk with you, they can work with you, and you have a space. So getting out there, talking with them, maybe showing them a little something on the side, whatever it may be, but getting out there, getting those cards out there is very, very important. And this will lead us into what? Prospecting. You got to know how to prospect. And this is something that we're going to talk about, because prospecting is everything. You got to you got to go out there and you got to find your people, and you got to bring your people. You got to bring those people in, and you got to find your people, and they're out there. They're out there, okay? But if you're not looking every day for those people, you will never find any. And this is what I did. This is what I did for 5 years. I was out, prospecting. I was out talking with people. I was out handing out cards. This is what I'm doing, the whole 9 yards. Meanwhile, I'm hitting my power base, and I'm finding, and I'm getting out there, right? Getting material out there, marketing, okay? Because again, I had no money. So this is off of what? A shoestring budget. This is how I started building momentum and started getting myself out there. And what was cool about the location I was in is that there were houses all around me. So what did I do? I took time out of my day and I just went walking through the neighborhood. And I found people and I just started handing out cards. You gotta make an effort. You gotta get out there, walk your neighborhood. Like walking a beat, like a cop walking a beat. I remember my grandfather used to tell me stories about how he walked his beat, right? So you got to walk your beat. You got to walk your neighborhood. In a way, become the neighborhood-friendly martial art instructor. To just hand out cards like, hey, this is where we are. Come on down. Get a card, my information's on the card. Give us a call. Come down, take a free class, a free week, whatever you want to be. But you got to get out there and you got to walk your beat, walk your neighborhood. And you got to pick a day or pick a time every week where you walk your beat. Okay, this is what I did in the beginning. And I'll tell you what, a lot of the people did not call, did not even bother. They probably threw my card away, but it was me getting exposure, okay? Because usually what happens is they're like, you know what, there was that guy. What was that guy's name? He talked to me. He said he had a martial arts school around here somewhere. And then my do you remember the name? It was something, it was like Edge something. Kombative Edge, Kombative Edge, something like that. They type it in and poof, your website comes up and they find you. Okay? So having a website is like your first storefront, so to speak. And that's a very powerful storefront. Why? Because you can hit people from all over the place. So getting all your information on your website is very important. Making sure that all your material links back to your website. Because from your website, they'll come to the school, or they'll call the school. They'll call your space. Okay, they'll call you cell phone. Right? Now, cell phones are very important. And we'll get into that. But we're back into what? Walk your beat. Walk your beat, right? So you want to make sure that all of your, obviously you have a cell phone, so make sure all of your information has your website on it, has your cell phone number on it. Because remember, you don't have technically a storefront like the one I'm in now, where you can put in a landline, or a phone line rather. So you got to use your cell phone. So your cell phone becomes everything. And what's hilarious is, I don't know where my cell phone is as well. I'm filming. What's hilarious is my cell phone. I still use that to this day. I still use it, and we're going to talk we're going to talk about how powerful a cell phone really is. Okay, there's a lot of stuff that I learned over the years because I realized it was important, not because I knew what I was doing, but because it was the only avenue that I had at the time. And as I got farther and farther down the road, I started realizing, oh my goodness, there's a lot of tools that can be used with a cell phone. And we'll get into that when we start talking about sales, and we start talking about, how to follow up and all that wonderful stuff, right? We'll get into that. Okay, but this is very, very important. Okay, just remember, cell phones, very important. Okay, so now I'm moving along or whatnot, handing out, and like for example, this is, I still use it to this day. See, take a look. So what do I have here? Kombative Edge boxing, right? We just expanded next door, and what do I have? I have a look inside. See that? Call now. There's my cell number. Not my store number, my cell number. Something's never changed. Website and address. That's it. That's all you need. Okay? See that? And it's little. Keep them in your pocket, walking your beat. Here you go. And you talk about it. And obviously when you talk about, be excited. Be excited. Because it is your business, and you should be excited. So if you're like, hey, here's a martial arts or some boxing, call me if no, you got to be excited. And we're going to talk about presentation. How do you do presentation? Right? We'll get into all of that. Okay? So that's it for now. Okay? So just remember, right? Where are we? We're at the church right now, and we're starting to what? We're starting to get our information out there. So you need a website. You need material, right? That you can go out. You got to walk your beat. You got to walk your neighborhood. Every day or every couple of days, pick a time out and walk your beat and just start handing them out. Now, depending on your neighborhood, you may or may not be able to leave these things in mailboxes. So I don't know if that's, I know where in my neighborhood, Floral Park, that's illegal. They will call you to court for that. But over in Queens, you can. So you got to find out your neighborhood if you can or you can't do it. But there's no reason why you can't just walk and just hand it to people and be excited about it and have a conversation with them. Okay? And we'll talk about presentation and all that stuff. So get that website down, and we will continue this next time. All right, so get that website down, get some, and look, 4x4 inch. Nothing big, nothing crazy, small. And I still use this stuff today, guys, and this stuff works. Okay, so don't, because physical stuff is cool. I know internet and being online is important. It is very important. But don't neglect these things, because there's nothing cooler than you're talking about what talking with somebody, and then you whip this out like, yeah, man, I'm in boxing myself. I teach boxing. Since you're looking for boxing, here you go. Give me a call. And he takes it, and he's just like, wow, this is a really cool place. Yeah, come on down, give us a call, and then we'll talk about what? When you're prospecting, how do you get their number? Yes, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Okay, I'll see you guys next time. Justin here from Kombative Edge Martial Arts, and have a great day. Always remember, rise above the average. Bye-bye.